So who is Jules and why is he out of this world? Let's talk about the new indie sci-fi drama Jules. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass. I'm here to talk to you about Jules, which comes to theaters on August 11th, 2023. It is a quirky, kind of whimsical indie sci-fi drama that has an interesting premise and a great cast. My hot take is, look, I think you should rent it. It is a whimsical story about life, aging, and companionship with an alien thrown in there. It has a great cast, it has a nice story, it has some interesting themes, and I really love kind of the way that they used the special effects and added the sci-fi elements into this story. So I'm going to tell you a little about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and then very quickly go into the ending. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the ending section. If you don't want to know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off when I get to the ending section. But before that, I'll keep it vague, I'll keep it spoiler-free, and I'll let you know when I get to those spoilers. So Jules follows Milton, who's played by Ben Kingsley. He's this aging man who's living in this small town, and he's starting to have some health issues that seem to affect his life. His daughter is the only one that's kind of around, and she's hoping to take care of him. He doesn't talk to his son anymore. It's not really brought up why, but it seems like they had a rough past. And he just kind of is going about his business in this small town, fighting his fights, living in his house. And then a strange event happens that kind of throws a wrench in all of that. So, things I liked about this movie. The first, I love the music. It is just a wonderful, wonderful soundtrack. It's weird to mention that, but an indie film that has good music is just such a lovely treat. And this has just a beautiful orchestral, kind of like whimsical soundtrack that just plays over everything. It really helps to kind of emphasize kind of the not serious nature of a lot of this. There are some serious themes that this film touches on, but the music helps you kind of like balance it and know that this is a little bit silly at times. The second thing I love, look, I love the cast. This is a great cast. I mean, you've got Ben Kingsley, who's kind of like the headliner, but you've also got Harriet, Sansom Harris, Zoe Winters, and Jane Curtin. Just this wonderful, like, small cast for this story, but they're all very interesting characters. They all play very different, quirky characters. It's fun to see them interact and see how, I don't know, how strange they are. Like, Ben Kingsley's character is almost unrecognizable, just kind of with how he acts, his mannerisms, the way he goes about. It was almost tough to tell that it was Ben Kingsley. I kind of had to double check to make sure that was actually who I was looking at. And the rest of the cast does a good job also. And the rest of the cast do a really good job transforming it into their own specific quirky characters to help tell the story. And the last thing I loved is it's just kind of an unconventional story. Look, it kind of draws you in with this like sci-fi element, but the sci-fi element is almost kind of like second to everything else in this film. Like, the film is really about the relationships that these characters have, their aging, kind of what their life is like as they're getting older, kind of like losing connections with other people. It's really about that and the new connections that they were able to make. The alien is a kind of a catalyst for all of this. The alien is kind of a member of this whole setup, but it doesn't seem like the sci-fi is really the main focus of this movie. I thought it was interesting to tell this kind of like heartfelt, dramatic story with an alien thrown in just for kind of some of the random aspects of it. That being said, like I said, it was a rental. I really liked a lot of it. It was just definitely a fun film. This was really kind of on the border between like a rental and a watch. I went with a rent, but I really did like this film. So, and here are some of the reasons why I went with a rent. The first, there is a strange story twist that kind of comes out of nowhere. It relates to the themes and it does kind of like emphasize some of the things that the movie is talking about, but it really is a different tone. It feels like a part of a different movie. Like, I thought that maybe they could have made their point without going to that specific scenario. The second thing I didn't love as much, there are some odd elements to this. Like I said, there's a strange story twist, but there's kind of some odd elements, specifically this alien's request for some things. It's a bit strange. I mean, the film is kind of quirky and odd, but that felt very weird to have that be the specific thing. So I didn't really love that part either. I mean, it's tough to like be very vague about these things, but I'll talk about them in the ending section. And the last thing I didn't love about this film, it was a really slow start. I mean, some of that is expected. You're kind of developing the three kind of main personas that interact. But I don't know. I felt like this film had a really, really slow start, really kind of slow build up. And then after about 30 to 40 minutes, then it started getting more interesting. Then it started getting more fun. And I really liked it a lot more. But before that, it wasn't that I didn't like the movie. It just felt like it could have gotten going a little quicker. So that being said, Jules is in theaters on August 11th, 2023. I really like the film. I think you should ultimately rent it. But if you check it out, let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you liked. Let me know what you didn't like. And let me know what I got right and wrong. I'd love to hear it. I'm going to go into the ending section now. So if you don't want to know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off because there will be spoilers. So, like I said, Jules follows Milton, who is this kind of like older man living in this small town in Pennsylvania. He goes to the city council meetings. He kind of like advocates for these kind of silly causes that are very kind of ingrained in him, but he is also starting to feel like there are some health issues going on. He's starting to become forgetful. He's starting to do like a few strange things. It feels like there's something going on in his health that is going to affect his quality of life and affect his like overall relationship with his daughter. His daughter already is in this town. She's taking care of him. She's like kind of taking on the burden of making sure that he is okay, dealing with his bills, dealing with his medical appointments, kind of what you might expect for a daughter with an aging father. But it seems like his health might go downhill and this might cause a problem. That all changes one night when a strange occurrence happens in his backyard. An alien ship crash lands in his backyard. And this I thought was a little weird because, like, look, alien ship crash in your backyard, fine. If you're in like rural, I don't know, Iowa, wherever Superman is set, then like something crashing, maybe people won't notice. But this is not like a rural town. It didn't feel like it felt like a small town, but it didn't feel like people were on like acres and acres of land. And so an alien ship crashes in his backyard, and he's the only one that notices. That seems a little odd. But if everyone kind of knew, it would mess with the story. So this alien ship crashes, and eventually this little spaceman comes out, and Milton starts taking care of him. First he like covers him in a blanket to make sure he doesn't get cold at night. Then he gives him some water and some food. Eventually, the alien comes into his house and lives in his house. And it's a very interesting kind of alien relationship. It's not like the alien comes out and starts communicating. The alien is silent the entire time. The entire movie, the alien doesn't speak. So you get a lot of what it's thinking, a lot of what it's doing by just its mannerisms. And some of them are just very odd. Like it will just like look at you or like watch the TV. Sometimes it has like very dramatic like movements to tell you what it's doing, to tell you what it wants. I felt like the actor would have had like a stage background in those instances because this alien doesn't express anything, but it's able to get across a lot of kind of what it's thinking and a lot of the emotions just by the way that it's looking, its gestures, its kind of mannerisms. It is an interesting kind of choice, but I did kind of like it. I like that this was a little bit strange, that this alien was very weird and like built a relationship with these characters without really even speaking at all. So Milton brings this alien into his house and just kind of starts like hanging out. I think he likes the companionship. It's really interesting. They like watch TV. He's helping to take care of it. The alien loves apples, which is why I had an apple at the start. Like all the alien eats is apples. Eventually, one of Milton's friends, this person named Sandra, randomly comes to his house, and Milton like doesn't think much about it. He just like lets her in, and there's an alien there. Sandra is thrown off at first, but eventually she kind of like starts to like the alien too. She starts to take care of it. They all both kind of treat it like a child, maybe a more grown-up child, but still like someone that they have to take care of. And so they are now taking care of this alien. They have something in their life that has been missing. And so it's very interesting to see how they form this relationship with this creature that is in their house. Now, eventually, this character named Joyce also comes in. She is more of like a free spirit. She's a little bit of an interloper. She is spying on Milton and Sandra, wondering like what they're doing. She sees the alien, comes on in, and now she is part of this cadre as well. All three of them are part of this like club, this family that is helping the alien. And it's really interesting to see how their relationship develops. Like they kind of like start talking to it like a child. It feels like these characters just need companionship. That is kind of the underlying theme. Each of them is kind of alone for various reasons. And now that they come together, now that there is this thing to take care of, they start to form a relationship, and they really start to form a relationship with this alien. They start to share things with it that I thought was fun. Like they just needed someone who would listen and not like judge. So they start like telling it about their lives and things that happen. Each of them have these moments with the alien where they're just like talking about their past and things that they've experienced. And it is beautiful to see. It's really interesting that this like silent thing is what is causing them to open up. Now, eventually the alien gets healthy enough to start repairing its ship. So it starts repairing its ship, and it seems to be asking for something. It keeps drawing these pictures of cats and a spaceship. And you're like, okay, that's really weird. Well, eventually the group figures out that the alien wants cats to help it. It like brought a cat that it found on the road back to the house and like left it out. And so they realize that the alien needs cats, I guess, to fuel its spaceship. This was weird. I mean, I get it. Like it's kind of a strange request. It's weird that the alien would need like dead cats to fuel its overall spaceship. I thought that was a little odd, but it made for some, I don't know, quirky experiences where this group is like looking for cats. Now, also, one thing that happens is that Sandra definitely was looking for some outreach, looking for some friendship. She started a group to like talk to young people. Like she wanted to share her experiences with young people. Young people could talk to her. They could learn from each other. They could be their own friends. All well and good, except the first person that comes to her house is a little bit odd. He's kind of quiet. He's a little bit strange. They talk for a little bit, and then he goes up to use the bathroom. And while he's up there, Sandra comes out and checks on him, and she sees him rifling through her jewelry. And she's a little thrown off. She's like, why don't we just go out there? She's like, why don't we just go back downstairs and talk? And he's like, no, I think I'm going to keep going through your jewelry. Sandra says she's going to call the cops, and then she like runs from him, and he like gets on top of her and starts strangling her, which I thought this was weird. This is just a very abrupt change from like this whimsical drama to this almost like true crime horror movie. And while this is happening, you see the alien, like his name is Jules. I should probably start calling him Jules. They name him Jules. He looks over, he kind of sees in his vision like what's happening to Sandra. His face turns blue, which I thought was like him experiencing her losing oxygen. And then that's it. That's the scene. He like then looks back and then re-engages with like Milton and Joyce. Now, the next scene, you see like police officers at Sandra's house, and you're like, oh my gosh, like what happened? And then you see Sandra okay, and you're like, okay, this is interesting. And it turns out that the assailant's head just kind of like popped off. And they're like, that's really weird. How does that happen? It's like, I don't know. Like, do you have any weapons? It's like, do I have any weapons to like make people's heads pop off? Like, I don't know. It just happened. Like, I can't explain it. She knows that Jules did it, but she doesn't want to let the police know. So they kind of table it because they can't really explain what happened. And Sandra goes to see Jules, and she just comes up and like hugs him. And it's a really sweet moment where she realizes like what Jules did. But again, I thought this was a weird tone shift. Like, they could have had her driving. Like, she was a driver. Like, maybe she's driving and like the space is out. She like maybe she's driving and like gets excited. Maybe I don't know. Maybe she's driving and she has like a heart attack. I don't know. And then that could have been something that Jules would have experienced and fixed without having this like weird murder aspect in it. Like I said, it gets the job done. It kind of gives you this emotional connection between Sandra and Jules, and shows that Jules like both cares about them and has these powers that it's not using. But it felt very weird. Now remember, they're all looking for cats. They're trying to get 7 cats, well now 6 now that Jules has one, for Jules's spaceship. They go looking for roadkill. While it's happening, they're getting tailed by the police, by the government. They're trying to figure out what is going on. Like, why are these people doing this? They eventually end up finding 6 cats. So they need 1 more. And that is when Milton suggests that Joyce gives up her cat. Her cat is old. Her cat has a lot of problems. It basically can't see, can't walk, can't hear. Joyce is thrown off by this. She's like, oh, it's my kid. But then she starts to realize that like he basically doesn't really have much of a life, and she needed him for companionship. But now she has this other family around him, and one of her friends needs that cat for some reason. So there's a sweet scene where she's holding the cat. Jules does his magic thing. Sandra like puts a bowl over the cat's head, like worried that the head's gonna explode. But Jules just makes the cat die peacefully. Jules turns blue, so you realize that is how Jules uses his powers. It wasn't that he was like experiencing Sandra dying. Maybe he was, but that's also how he then uses his powers. And so now they have their 7th cat. Now they have all the cats. Jules lays them out, gets like a tarp or like a silver blanket, puts it on the cats, and then they start kind of like transforming underneath the blanket. All you see are these like bulges on the blanket, and eventually they form into this like cylindrical pill looking thing. It looks kind of like a big blood red Dayquil. If I had to describe it as anything, it would be like a big blood red Dayquil. Jules puts that into his ship, and it starts up. It flies, it starts hovering. It seems like Jules has finally fixed his ship. So it seems like Jules is able to come home. And then as he's about to leave, he kind of like goes like this, like a very exaggerated like welcome, basically saying like, you can come with me. And I was like, great, you all should go. Like, what is left for your life on Earth? You have friends, but you're all kind of friends with each other. You're getting older. Have this one adventure. Go have fun. And Milton actually kind of considers it, but then he goes inside to, I think, tell his daughter, and his daughter gives him a call and just like says like she wants to just hang out this Saturday. So you're gonna come over, cut his hair. She wants to just talk and kind of rekindle the relationship. They had been fighting a lot due to kind of Milton's health. And so she like doesn't want that to happen. She wants to like hang out with him. She wants to just kind of like be with her dad. And this causes Milton to like want to stay here. He goes up to Jules and he basically says like, I would love to see your planet. I would love to experience that. But, I've lived on this earth for my entire life. I should probably stay here, even though my life is about to end. And again, I was like, well, like, you're just going to become a big burden on your daughter. And although she's going to, she's going to cherish the time, it's not going to be pretty for either of you. You might as well just go with the alien to his like space world and see what they've got. Maybe they have super technology. Maybe they can fix you. Who knows? But Milton decides to stay. But while this is happening, the government finally tracks down this group. They've been trying to track down this satellite that had fallen onto Earth, and they finally located the satellite at this location when the spaceship took off. So they're at the door, they break down the door, all three friends run into the spaceship. Jules comes in too, they take off, and they take off as the government is like entering the backyard. And like, oh man, now they're going to go to this new world. And they land in this strange, rocky environment. And they're like, did we go somewhere? Are we in like this new planet? Like, well, we weren't there for very long. And then they realize that they have cell phone signal and they got in text messages. So they realize they're still on Earth. Jules just kind of like got them out of there so they'd be safe and dropped them off nearby. So after this, Jules gets back in his plane. They all say goodbye to him. He gets back in his spacecraft. He takes off, and you can see the friends through this window as he's flying away. And then after this, you see Milton, who's not looking that great. It looks like he is like starting to feel the effects of whatever is going on in his head. You see Sandy and Joyce. They're talking to him, and Joyce says, do you think Gary remembers us? For some reason, Joyce calls him Gary, even though Milton and Sandy call him Jules. He's like, who's Gary? And then Sandy says, Jules. And Milton doesn't really react, but he kind of like looks straight ahead. So I think there is a little bit of recognition there. And so it seems like he's getting worse, but at least he has his friends around him. And then you do get another scene at the end where Milton is asleep. He hears something outside. He wakes up. He looks outside. There's like lights outside coming through his window. You can't tell what it is, but you can pretty much tell that Jules is back. And so it seems like Jules is either coming back to get him maybe, or he's at least visiting his friend, spending time with him. Seems very dangerous, especially because like the government did track him down. You feel like they'd be monitoring it, but maybe it's worth it. But you don't get to see what happens. You don't get to see what's next. I kind of wanted to think that Milton is going to go with Jules to this like space world. So who knows? But that's the end of Jules. Like I said, it's a whimsical, fun, like indie drama that has a little bit of sci-fi thrown in, but it really tells this story about companionship and aging and, what happens in life. I definitely think you should check it out. I think you should rent it. But if you see it in theaters, I don't think you'll be disappointed. It comes to theaters on August 11th, 2023. So if you check it out, let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.